Hey guys, this is Jared Kraus, host of the Buying Online Businesses podcast, and this is a very exciting episode because it's episode number 1. And I had a very special guest with me, Mr. Charlie Valla from Outsourcing Angels, who has been crushing it online for many, many years. And on this episode, we talk about why buying an online business is better than starting from scratch. So if you're trying to learn how to start making money online, then this episode is certainly for you. Hey guys, Jared Kraus here from Buying Online Businesses, and I have a very special episode today for you guys and a very special guest as well. My guest is Charlie. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jared. I'm really excited to be here and for episode 1 nonetheless.
I know, very pumped, very excited to get this happening. So Charlie is a very, very well-versed online business guru, should I say. And he, very similar to me, Charlie, where you started out plumbing and you started moving into making money online. You started a little bit earlier than me. And normally I could go away and tell everybody, build up some awesome intro into you, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and how you got started into this game of making money online?
Yeah, sure. And you're too kind. It's funny. I don't often think of myself as that far into the game. I still often feel like a student of the whole thing, but it's been many, many years now. So for me, I suppose I'll just start at where it really started, is going that my father actually had a friend who was a plumber, and this plumber was to my eyes, he looked really rich. He had a really hot wife. He had great looking kids. And I just looked at this guy and was like, I want that. This guy is living. And I just remember he had this amazing property with this pool next to his house. And I just thought how good would this be? So based on my perception of my father's friend, I was like, I'm going to be a plumber. So I started an apprenticeship at about 16 years old, which is quite young, but I was like, why wait for it? And I did this apprenticeship, and to my disappointment, things didn't really go the way I thought it would in becoming like my father's friend. So did the 4-year apprenticeship, which was some great fun, but then I got to this point where I was doing a bit of commercial work and things round, and I could see that my life wasn't really aligning with that vision. I wasn't going to have that same thing. And I was like, what's so different here? What's not really happening? And I realized that, my dad's friend had actually made a lot of money doing property and other things and not just plumbing. And he'd also built this astronomical business. So even though he had the plumbing skills, it was really what he did around the edges that made the difference for him. So on this idea, I was really hating the trade, to be honest. The early mornings, the cold starts, the 5 a.m. drains in winter, which I'm sure you remember in some form, Jared.
Yeah.
The worst, the absolute worst.
It's
but
really
based
bad.
on this, I'm very, very fortunate that I was able to, I suppose, make a big change. But, while I was plumbing, I decided to make the jump to online and really get out of the trade because I wasn't enjoying it at all. So started on eBay. eBay was taking off at the time. It was the heyday of eBay, where I was just basically buying goods from the US and China, shipping them to Australia, and then selling them for a markup on eBay. And it was a good little business. But the reason I got into that is I was like, okay, well, this is a simple business model. All you've got to do is just buy shit cheaper than you can sell it.
Yeah.
I thought it was genius.
Awesome. And still people do that to this day, but you jumped in at a really great time. That's awesome to be getting in at that time as opposed to now where it's a lot more saturated, would you say?
Well, I look at it now and this is kind of one of the ironies is e-commerce only got bigger. But what I really struggled with is I was very good at selling things online, but the actual logistics game was very challenging for me. So when you get big as an e-commerce company, dealing with shipping goods all over the world, I had no experience. I was a plumber.
Yeah.
It was really hard and difficult, and there's tariffs and tax and GST and customs. I'll never forget, I was importing some hair products, and I just ordered them. No big deal, right? Until you get your shipment stop at customs, And they're like, oh, we need you to certify these chemicals and make sure they're not drugs. And I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
But I get their point of view. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
of
just
course.
some kid ordering things online. Like, it could have been anything.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's probably how some drug dealers and whatnot get things into the country. They probably pretend it's hair products or whatever. So, like, I don't condone that in any way. But for me, I was just way out of my depth.
Yeah.
So I actually sold that business. I sold my eBay store to my biggest competitor, and he was thrilled to get it. And then from there, I went into the online marketing world. So I started a marketing agency. Grew that agency really quickly. Like, Facebook ads were taking off at the time, and we'll just call it luck. Because, I somehow ended up on eBay when it was booming, and I somehow ended up in front of Facebook ads when it had just started. And my agency grew really quickly. We got to, more than 7 figures, and I had about 15 staff in a very, very short amount of time, which was a huge jump from where I was again, and obviously learned a lot coming from plumbing into that. But I loved the online game. From there, I started another company along the way with a co-founder called Outsourcing Angel. And I started that with a good friend of mine, Lynn Padetti. And Outsourcing Angel really started to blossom, and I ended up closing the marketing agency to focus on Outsourcing Angel, which I still have Outsourcing Angel today. Outsourcing Angel has, about 100 people involved now, about 100 staff between Melbourne, Sydney, and the Philippines. And I've been loving that for a long time, and then dabbling in all corners of the internet since. So that's kind of been the journey in like my online navigation through things. And then, to the side, I've been buying websites, selling websites, and getting involved in all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's how we got acquainted is through a bit of networking as well. But, you really took a liking to the buying online business thing. And it's a really cool thing because it's a concept that most people don't even know it exists, right? Everybody's like out there thinking, oh, I want to go away and make money online. So they need to start their own online business. And then they really see the struggle in it. And, much like me, you've been through some times, jumping to 15 staff and dealing with all these different things logistically and stuff. There's a fair bit of work in starting a business, and that's what our episode of today is going to be about, right? So today's episode is why buying an online business is better than starting from scratch. And it's well done on your journey thus far, Charlie. That's really, really, really cool. So I wanted to ask you, like, what have you learnt about starting your own online businesses, and what, in your opinion, what do you suggest? Like, why do you think it's better to be buying online businesses rather than starting completely from scratch? What's your opinion on that?
Oh, I'll sum it up in like one word, really. Like, what's my opinion on that? It's hard. Really hard. I think you've only got to look at my GoDaddy account with the amount of domains I own to like how many times I've probably attempted to start something. I call it the graveyard now because I've got that many contentmarketingempire.com was the time when I was going to start a content marketing business. And didn't get off the ground, didn't even progress it from there because of, a variety of reasons. So I'm, being someone that started multiple businesses, and I, do have one that I did start with scratch with the co-founder, Lynn Padetti, and we still do that from there. But I certainly wouldn't probably start another business from scratch. I think it is just something that people underestimate. They really, really underestimate like how much it can take to get something off the ground. The second thing I really kind of lean into is that I can look at, a lot of the times I make decisions based on my best knowledge at the time, but that doesn't make it a good decision. And I love the idea, and I really love the concept of like buying a business that's already a couple of years in, because like they've already gone through so many re-iterations, or what it's called, reinventions, re-irritations of getting some form of success. It's not like we have to question the original ideas of a business. And this is what makes it so appealing, is that, buying a business that's already gone through a learning curve and has already made some sales, I just feel like it's a much easier approach and much more sensible approach.
Yeah, I totally agree that you've got, it's, to sum it up in one word, it's hard, right? Like this is the misconception that a lot of people come to me with, is that, and a lot of clients have gone away and started their own businesses, whether it be like a bricks and mortar or an online business, and they've just realized that it's just way harder than everybody makes it out online. And I agree with you on the point where you've got to test so many things to make it work, and you go through so many iterations or so many different types of processes and systems and running the business to make it work and even profitable. And I know that when you go away and buy a business that's already running and past that 90% failure rate, they've already got the marketing system, they've already got the sales system, they've already got somebody that sometimes you can buy websites that already have VAs and virtual assistants that are already pretty much running the business. And I remember my second business I ever bought, it's pretty cool that the second business I ever bought I bought it with 2 staff, and I got a little bit of training from the previous owner in how to run the business, but pretty much all the other training came from my VA, who still works with me. I still have the business, still runs, and he runs the business pretty much himself at the moment, and he's a gun, and he taught me everything I really needed to know about the business. And it's pretty cool that you can come into a business where there's already processes, systems, it's already making sales, and it's already past that failure rate. And I really think that's quite a cool concept, rather than why would you go through and do all the hard work when still you don't know if it's going to succeed, when you could leverage from somebody else's hard work who really wants to sell their business anyway, because they might just want some cash, or they get it to a certain level and they don't want to grow it anymore, or they want to take that money and reinvest in something else. I think that's a pretty cool concept to use people's systems. Yeah.
So, I want to ask you a question there. How did you end up coming around on the idea of buying someone else's business rather than starting one yourself? Like, what was attractive to you?
Yeah, great question. And it's not rather than starting one myself, because I'm the same as you. I've got my own little graveyard happening out the back here as well, where I started travel blogging, and I made a little bit of money, but I did it for quite a few years. Basically, my story is I started to, I caught myself in Egypt, and I was like, I don't want to go back home to plumbing anymore, right? And it's so similar. Our stories are so similar, because I had this ideal life of this plumber that I looked up to as well, who just seemed like he had it made in his life, and that's why I got into plumbing rather than being a sparky. It's kind of crazy how we make our decisions when we're that young. But anyway, yeah, sorry.
And who we're influenced by. Like, it's strange to me that it's like I saw the future I wanted in this person, even though they were never me and anything like that. It's certainly very, very applicable.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, a lot of people, and we could go deep into this subject of the decisions we make in our life, but I find that a lot of people do follow people, or they follow people that aren't living the life they actually want, and then they kind of wonder how come they get to whatever age it is and they have this midlife crisis or quarter life crisis, and well, I don't like what I'm actually doing. It's because they've gone away and they've listened to people that don't live the life they actually want, and it's kind of scary. And I did that, and I know a lot, probably most of society does that. And my advice to people that do get into that position is change your focus and focus on and follow somebody who has the life that you really want.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I really do. And I think that is a topic we could probably even do a whole episode on, Jared.
I agree. I think we'll put it in the pipeline. But back to why did I get into the whole buying business rather than starting? And the reason is I did start, I wanted to make money online. I literally jumped on Google because my goal was to travel around the world and make money online. One day I just came to my senses, I don't want to go back home to plumbing. And I literally jumped on Google and typed in how to travel the world and make money online. And what popped up was people travel blogging, and I told myself, cool, that's it. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to become a travel blogger. And I did that, taught myself everything I needed to know about it, made a little bit of money, but it wasn't enough to sustain the lifestyle that I really wanted. So I was like, all right, I'll start my own business that's going to make more money. And I started my own website and tried doing that. And I did that a couple of times. And I spent a lot of time learning and not making any money and just failing and failing and failing it. That's how I learned a lot, for sure. And then somehow one day I realized if 90% of startups fail, why don't I go away and buy a business that's past that 90% failure rate? So I jumped on Google to see if I could buy these websites, and hey presto, there were some places you could buy online businesses from. And it was pretty alarming to me to see the returns that these businesses were making. And so I was like, all right, this is what I need to do now. These ones are working. I need to save up my money and buy one. And that's how I got into that. I just saved up my money, I bought one, and then I bought another one. And by this time, I was making more money than I was at my full-time plumbing gig as a supervisor, and I'd replaced my income. So I quit and I traveled, and that's how I got into this game where people are reaching out to me now from everywhere trying to jump on the bandwagon as well.
Yeah, it's such a great story. Almost, it's like one of those things. I mean, maybe I'm biased because I see my own story here, but it's like, this is like the rise from the trade happy story. And for anyone that's been unhappy in a job, I'm sure they can totally relate to like when you're in the moment of hating what you're doing and you have dreams and ambitions for other things. Like these are the stories that I really love.
Yeah, and there's so many options out there, to get away from not doing that. It doesn't have to be a 9 to 5, but the biggest thing is a lot of my clients, and I've got friends that have gone away and studied different things, and got out of the trade doing different things. But a lot of my clients are people from FIFO, and it's not just like, I really hate my job. I find the deeper thing is that their job is causing so much drama or a havoc in their life where they get separated from their family so much and don't get to spend time with their family. And it's cool to, like you and I know, it's cool to have the money and earn the money and have a great lifestyle, but you can always earn more money, but you can't earn more time. And I think that's the most important thing for people that are in that position where they're like, all right, I really need to do something about this.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we all get to that point. I think we really do.
Yeah. So I got a question for you, is like, what is your favorite thing about buying businesses? Like what's your favorite thing about buying businesses rather than starting them?
I think for me, like one of the most attractive things in this is the speed. Like, I'll use an analogy and then I'll go a bit deeper. Is like, if you're trying to make $1 million, so the goal is to create $1 million, right? It's so much easier if you've got $1 million to turn it into $2 million. Or if you've got $10 million and you need to turn it into $11 million. But turning nothing into $1 million is really, really hard. Like there's so much more involved and there's so much more time involved in doing that. And I think that it's the same in business, is like the 0 to 1 phase, like starting with nothing and having to develop everything is incredibly time consuming. So for me, I love the idea of that, like we can just skip a lot of that and that I can act within my genius of like, just basically like, just imagine there's a fire, is I just want to come along and be the petrol. I just want to come on and dump a load of petrol on this fire and like go quickly.
Yeah.
And it's in a very, very attractive approach to me because I've got a skill set that leverages to doing that now. So I'll give you an example here is like I've got Outsourcing Angel as a company that has, we do virtual assistants in the Philippines. I've got a great team which does, website development, social media, podcast editing, online marketing, graphics, all of it. So for me, if I can find a business that's got a winning product in a market that I like, and I can grab that and I can bolt on my team from Outsourcing Angel, I can make that go really, really quick. Like I've got a huge amount of leverage that I can dive into that just wouldn't be achievable in starting something from scratch. So that's really probably one of the biggest appeals to me, is just the speed.
Yeah. And I love that it's where you're at. You're at a completely different level to where most people are that are actually listening to this, where they kind of just want to get out of their job and do something different. But I want them to understand that, my life changed. Like, I didn't have all the resources that you had when you started buying online businesses. I was very much saving my money to buy an online business, but I realized that the speed in which I could replace my income was, I would like to say 10x, but it's way more than 10x, like 10 times faster than what it was starting websites. And that's with like very little knowledge. So I can see even on that level, when I started, and most people are listening, is like, I see it's so much quicker to do so, because you don't have to go through that 2, 3 or whatever long period of testing or building a business to see if it's going to work and if it's going to pass that failure rate. And then from there, your speed just goes, tenfold once you start learning how to buy the businesses. What inadvertently, or a great byproduct of learning how to buy the businesses, is that you look at so many businesses and see what they're doing right, see what they're not doing right, and see how they're growing their businesses, and you can take notes on those. And when you do buy your first business, you can go away and grow it, because you've got that knowledge now. And that is this. I love that level of speed is across the board, not just for somebody that was started at your level as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's such a great point. You actually nailed it. It's like, I might be further in the game than some people, and probably not as far as other people. But it's like that principle still applies. It absolutely applies. Now, you might not get the speed in team that I have, but it's the speed in not having to work out, as you mentioned before, those original systems. And not to mention is like, if let's say someone bought a business and they were a part of your fantastic community, the Buying Online Businesses community, is they can actually create that leverage through reaching out to people like you or people that are in that group, so that they can, I suppose, leverage their experiences. Like, they could get your opinion or what other people have done and then apply it to the business they've just bought.
Yeah, and that's a really great point, is that my community is, and I'm pretty particular with who we let in, because we've got such a great energy in the community, and it's a great network, and people want to come away and do what I do and learn my process and stuff like that, which is all good and well, but the value that you can leverage from that network in the community is amazing. Like, some people have made an amazing friendships in our community that they're going to be friends with them forever, because they're on this path of growth together, and not just leveraging people's knowledge as well, but also finances. I know that a lot of these guys in the future are going to put some finances together and build some portfolios together, which is really cool as well. So it's a really good point of leveraging from other people too, and not just looking at it as cool, I can use you to grow, but you can use each other.
Yeah, definitely. We'll call it leverage. I'm not sure if I like the word used. We can leverage each other.
Leverage.
I don't want to use anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Misword there. Cool. And so talk to me about, this is something that was really, it just blew my mind when I saw the figures. What was and you probably were in business a lot longer than me before you actually found out about buying the businesses. But talk to me about what your thought process was, or what went through you when you saw all these businesses for sale on these website brokers, and you saw the returns that were being made. What happened for you when you saw that?
Oh, Jared, you're striking a bit of a nerve here, but I'm going to go into it because I feel like people may benefit from this. I'll be real, right? When I first saw things like Flippa or Empire Flippers or any of these online brokers, my initial thoughts years ago was like, this is just people trying to offload duds. Like these sites are scams. I feel like this is people that couldn't work it out and they're just trying to recoup some of their costs because they've got other ideas or other things they're working on. So I almost had like this dodgy car salesman like theory going on in my head.
Yeah.
But so like that's where I started, and I'm kicking myself because I was online early enough when there was some crazy good opportunities for those that could see the future. I mean, I've ended up doing all right, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
But it's like, I look back to that and like my mindset was so poor. Like I instantly went to a negative place on why a website or a business could be for sale. And then very fortunately, I came across someone who I won't name on just because I haven't, I suppose, asked them, and they're a bit of a private person. But this person had actually bought and sold a website on Empire Flippers. And I was like, oh, he doesn't seem like a loser. He doesn't seem like a con man. And it really kind of like, I had one of those moments where it's like my limiting belief was just kind of gone. So I used to think the internet was a scam till I sold my first item on eBay, and then I was all in. And then I used to think, buying and selling websites online, well, that's a scam. And then till I saw someone else achieve it. So once that window had been opened and it became real for me, there was this huge kind of perspective like shift, like this like just wash, if you will, over myself of seeing the risk and fear to like seeing the opportunity, seeing this huge opportunity. And I started to kind of like look into the returns, as you mentioned. And like at the moment, we're recording this podcast in like early 2019. I'm struggling to see better investment opportunities out there. Like the share market's been up and down, property's a bit up and down in Australia at the moment. So when I look at like what can be achieved with websites, it's very, very attractive. The other thing that kind of leans into this is like, I come from the trade and you come from the trade as well. Is this space to me like is incredibly attractive as a renovator? In the idea that I could buy a website and then, apply my trades or skills or learn skills that I would apply to this, and then kind of grow and flip and things like that. And this is one of the things that really stood out to me again. So when after that transformation and then having that renovator mindset, is it just becomes a new world. And I think the big advantage people have got today is that most people think like I used to think still. When there's so many legitimate reasons why someone would sell a website.
I totally agree. And this is what a lot of people that chat to us at Buying Online Businesses is they have this thing of like, it's this. Why would somebody sell a website or an online business? Surely they just like, it's like them, the people, the seller against the buyer, and it's not. It's crazy that we have this mindset because the internet's still pretty young anyway. I think it's still in its infancy, right? It's only been around 30 years, and we've still got this generation where the internet's so new. Obviously an older generation than us, but it still filters down and trickles down into younger generations where people can easily get scammed online. But let's face it, everything's happening online, and I think it's a shame. It is a shame to see that there's a lot of scammers out there. But in saying that, when I first started, very similar, I looked at it, I was like, wow, these returns are amazing. Surely they can't be correct, And if I'm going to be honest, I may have taken a bit of a risk because I didn't have any help and I went and bought a business. But what I started to notice was the more I spoke to some sellers, the more they actually really liked their businesses and they didn't want to sell them to just anyone. They wanted to go away and sell them to people who could do what you said, is buy and build, buy and renovate, or buy, build and flip. And obviously your first timers like not going to be amazing at it, but they can give it a crack with a lot of the knowledge they learned through their due diligence. And I'm not saying that every website out there is a great investment, because there are people out there on different places like Flipper and different marketplaces that are more, there's some listings that are a bit scammy, which is why I really press upon people to understand that due diligence is absolutely imperative. However, when you go to website brokers, you can see they have their reputation at stake, and they don't want to just sell a dud investment, because then their business is going to go down the drain as well. And they really care about not just the people who they're selling the business for, but the people who are buying them. And I was speaking to the owner of Latona's, one of the brokers, yesterday morning, and he was telling me about his vetting process that they do before they actually put businesses up for sale. So yeah, sure, you need to be careful about some random people just trying to offload something and make a bit of money, but I find majority of the businesses out there, if you're good at your due diligence, are really amazing investments. And I find the same for you, Charlie, is that I wish I had got into it earlier too. But when people, if people are watching this podcast, I urge them to go away and have a look at, Google some website brokers and have a look at the returns that are being made right now, because you and I both know the returns are far higher than property or the stock market or many different traditional forms of investments.
Yeah, but I just want to throw something in on that. And I agree 100%. There is risk and there is scammers. But how could you honestly say that same level of risk doesn't exist in the share market or the property market?
Exactly.
You could easily buy a dud stock or a dud property.
I've done it.
See, case in point.
Well, maybe something you don't know about me, Charlie, is that I came from the stock market. I started investing in the share market when I was very, very young. My dad actually set me up an account when I was maybe 15, and I started learning trading. And I had some money in investments, the stock market, and I used that capital to buy my first business.
Awesome. I love that story. I didn't know that, but again, it just kind of leans into the point. It really, really does. There's risk everywhere, and it's about doing due diligence on anything and working with trusted providers, and I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and that's why you mentioned Empire Flippers, right? Your friend who bought and built, which is an awesome model I like to teach people to do, is buy a really good investment and build upon it and get a higher return on your investment. And with Empire Flippers, I see that they're in the top 500 Inc. companies in America, and they've got such a high credibility in this market, and they definitely do not want to destroy their reputation. I can tell you that much.
Definitely. I completely agree. And that's a great example.
Yeah. Awesome, Charlie. Well, I think we've just covered so many reasons why, buying an online business is better than starting from scratch. Sometimes people, they do want to go away and really passionate about a business, and I can find that can be something you can't change. That's what they really, really want. And that can, even being passionate about a business that you do want to start, it can also allow you to have, wool over your eyes on trying to make something work that may not work anyway as well. And that's an interesting point. Have you seen that happen?
Stabs the knife.
Oh, sorry, he's done it before. Oh. Should I twist it? No, you tell us what happened.
I think you just highlighted something so important. Looked at, obviously that excitement towards an idea and growing a business can be intoxicating and pure ecstasy of awesomeness.
Yeah.
It is the bliss within us, to be excited by our own idea and the potential of being the next Facebook or Google or Instagram or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I've had that, and I really have, but it just absolutely blinds you to what a successful business is. It really, really does. And people get intoxicated with their idea, and that actually stops them from being successful. So for me, it's I got really excited by an idea, and I wanted to grow that idea and develop that idea, but it stopped me from seeing that it was a terrible idea. I actually tried to launch it. I'll even name the business. I tried to launch an analytics company. I love numbers. I love data. I love financial reports. I love Google Analytics. And I've come to realize that I'm a weirdo because of that. That's not normal. But I didn't know that. So I tried to launch a company providing better data to help marketing agencies. I thought this was going to be a winner, but just no one wanted it. And I came to realize that like my intoxication with something I wanted instead of what the market wanted really led that business to fail. And I'll even say now, I actually prefer businesses that I'm not interested in because it takes all the emotion out of a business and it actually makes it easier for me to be profitable. It makes it so much easier for me to make better management decisions and hire and fire well and just navigate the actual success of the company.
Wow. That's the two really good points right there is, being unemotional about, even if it is a startup, it's an investment. And even if you're not spending a whole lot of money, it's definitely a time investment, and being unemotional about it. And I definitely tell people when they're investing, all my clients, like you need to not be emotionally attached to it, because if you really want this business and it doesn't add up to buy it, you're gonna destroy yourself. So I think that's a really good point, is that emotion. And then also buying or starting a business, either is of like what you want to do because you love it or you think it's going to be great, as opposed to what the market wants. Like the market, it dictates everything. And that's especially not just when you're starting a business, but mainly when you're buying an online business. Is like you want to see, is the market reacting to the product and the services this business is actually selling, or could you come in and build it to have a better product or service that the market actually wants? And this is why I think most people actually do fail, is because they are definitely starting a website not knowing what the market wants. And when you start to try and make money online, you don't know how to test what the market wants. You don't know how to look at these analytics and look at different places to find out what the market actually wants. Would you agree?
Definitely. And surely you felt this yourself. I refuse to believe you haven't been intoxicated with one of your own ideas.
It's happened every time. It's with travel blogging, I did travel blogging for years, and I was telling one of my best mates the other day, do you know how hard it was for me to cut that travel blog and not spend so much time on it? Like I genuinely loved telling my stories about travel and then giving people tips and advice on what to eat, where to go, cool little travel hacks. Like I loved it, and it was an awesome lifestyle. But was it allowing me to eat wherever I wanted to and stay wherever I wanted for free and do all these fun things? No, it just wasn't working.
I can only imagine. I had a lot of that same feeling with letting go of the marketing agency at one point. It's like I knew I needed to do it, and I loved the marketing agency for many, many reasons. But it was the thing holding me back at that point.
Yeah.
It's great perspective, Jared. And hopefully this stops people going down the path of intoxication, or understanding some of the repercussions at the very least.
Yeah, and that's my message to most people, is that to really be conscious of what you're doing and where it can lead to, and are you doing everything in your power to make sure it's successful? And if not, if you want to go away and look at a different alternative, they are out there. And that's the biggest message, is like you don't just have to do the conventional thing as of, I want to make money online, I'm going to start my own online business. And that's what I think the main message of this podcast is all about, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome, Charlie. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for jumping on number 1 episode. I think I had a great time, and I really appreciate you jumping on. So you're from Outsourcing Angel. You also have your own, personal website. Where can people go away and check you out and find you?
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Jared. It's been a blast. I hope we get to do this many more times. Look, best place to follow up on what I'm doing, outsourcingangel.com is my company with Lynn. All your VAs and things like that, definitely appreciate people having a look or considering us as an option for you. And then the other one is, if you want to see my personal stuff, head over to charlievella.com.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Charlie, and I'm sure we will chat again, and I look forward to it.
Awesome, Jared.